Hello, my name is Muir. I'm the Vice President for Partnerships and Experiences at Hilton. I find amazing places for folks to stay with us all around the world. I like to say from the edge of the Serengeti all the way to space, maybe. My early career and early years all the way back to college, how would I describe myself? I've always believed in boundless possibility, and I've always been trying to change the world. I wake up every day trying to change the world. I fail most days, but I wake up and start again.
Hello, I'm Curtis Howse. I'm the CEO of our home and auto business at Synchrony. And if I had to pick 3 words to describe my college self, the first would be bold, the second would be caring, and the third would be humble.
I've been looking forward to this session all week. So one of the first things I know we need to talk about, the younger version of ourselves. We had to submit some photos of where we were, and I want to see yours, and I want to hear, what was happening in that photo. Where were you in terms of your headspace? What does that bring back in terms of memory? And how does that photo encapsulate kind of part of your journey, a big part of your journey, I think?
Yeah, so let me just show you this picture.
Oh, I love that.
Do you not love that fro? Do you not?
Love the fro.
Oh, how I wish.
Mine was never that big.
It wasn't?
But nah,
oh,
I
dude,
love that.
I had another 4 inches on this a few years later.
Oh, I
and
want to see that too.
I worked on my craft. So this picture is, it actually reflects where I was in my life and where I thought I wanted to be.
Okay.
So you can see me at the age of 16. I'm in high school. And to the left is a gentleman by the name of Mike Easler.
Okay.
Mike Easler was an outfielder for the Pittsburgh Pirates, but he was also an individual who went to my high school. And so he came back to the high school for a day. And so I had the opportunity to meet this childhood hero.
That's cool.
And the reason why I was so excited to meet him, and by the way, that's a pretty nice rabbit or fur coat he's got on. The reason why I was excited to meet him was because I thought that my path to being successful in life and growing was in becoming an athlete, like so many of us. And so baseball was my sport. This guy was doing it. He was living the life. And so here I am at this point in time in my life. I'm looking at my future in that I want to become a baseball player.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing.
But now you have a picture.
I do.
That tells a story. So help us to understand your experience.
Yeah. This exercise was interesting because it's a photo I've looked at from time to time, and you sort of just, relive the moment. And I never thought I'd talk about it this way, but it's kind of cool that I get to do this. It's a picture of the undergrad at SUNY Stony Brook, Suffolk County, Long Island, delivering the commencement address at graduation.
Oh, that's terrific.
And what's cool about this is, one of my mentors convinced me to do this when I was trying to run away from it. I was having this moment where I'd been responsible for a lot of years, always a responsible kid, did the right things and so on. And I convinced myself that college graduation was going to be the moment where I was just going to celebrate, and I was going to be in the audience with my crazy friends and my family. We're going to have a good time and pay no attention to anything. And at some point, I'll get a diploma.
I understand that process.
Right?
Yeah.
And he said to me, yeah, you're going to write that speech, and you're going to impress the committee, and you're going to get up there on that stage and deliver that speech, or I'm going to,
Yes, that.
Yeah. And Emil is from the south side of Chicago, so I believed him. And he always reminded me of that. You might be from Brooklyn, but I'm from the south side of Chicago. It was a special moment. There are things that happen now when I speak to certain audiences. Every now and then, I don't know what it's a timbre of my voice, something happens and the audience starts paying attention. And those are really scary moments. And this is the first time that actually happened to me. There's something I said and the way I said it the audience, thousands of people, stopped what they were doing and started paying attention. I was like, whoa. Kept it smooth, kept talking. And so it was a really powerful learning that people may actually pay attention when you're talking. And so be careful what you say and be ready to actually say something meaningful and useful, right? But more specifically, this moment, it meant so much more because I didn't understand how being in that place at that time would affect the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
My future wife was sitting in that audience along with her family.
Wow.
And Keisha's grandmother is, Southern lady, tough, only the best for her star granddaughter, and did not suffer fools in terms of, any dudes that came around.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how meaningful it was and how special it was that the first time she ever saw me and heard me, I was on that stage speaking. It's the first impression that only God can kind of deliver.
Yep.
You can't ask for that. You can't script
Yep.
that. I mean, I'm just saying, amazing.
Well, let's be honest. If you had not done it, or if you had done it poorly, you may not be with the woman you're with today. You do understand that, right?
30 years later.
30 years later.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an awesome experience that must have been.
Absolutely. Let's talk about, the early investments in talent, not just individuals, but for your organization, and in some ways the folks that poured into you, and how that has shaped how you think about investing in others and mentoring and supporting team members, folks in the community, the folks you mentor all around.
I'm a big believer in the coaching tree. When you think about athletics and you think about successful players and successful coaches, the coaches talk about their coaching. Who were the people that developed underneath you that have gone on to grow? I had one of the benefits early on in my career of having mentors who believed in coaching trees. They not only wanted to have an individual or two, they wanted to have a large group of people that they could point to and say, that's my person, I help this person, I help that person.
I got you.
And I think that's somewhat transferred to me in my values and my leadership style when it comes to the identification of talent, the mentoring and support of talent. I want to see people grow. That is part of my purpose. In fact, it is one of the ways that I measure my success as a leader. It's not about the revenues of the company. That's great stuff. The success we have, profession, that's great stuff. But it's how many people have I been able to lift up that look like me, who can go on to lift up other people that look like me, so that one day, when we look at corporate boards or when we look at leadership teams at companies, they look like the consumers, they look like the customers that they serve, which should be a microcosm of all people.
Amen. I think what I've taken from, I love you saying that, because I did not realize that I took that same lesson from conversations about coaching. Generally, I think about mentoring, but I didn't think about it that way. I will say the great coaches, I'll say the folks that mentored me and supported me, I'll say the great coaches were great listeners.
Mm.
And I'll never forget, Emil would let me sit and talk to him for an hour and rattle on, and he'd laugh at me a little bit, and then he'd finally tell me and coach me in terms of where to go. And I would always say, well, why did you give me the answer an hour ago? It's like, actually, no, it's a very different answer now that I've actually heard you, and then I understand how passionate you are about this thing. And so it helps me to understand where you are to actually give you the right advice. And so this conversation is also useful for me in terms of understanding what I took from those conversations in a different way.
Sorrel, what advice would you give to a student entering the workforce today?
Oh man, keep learning and abandon all notions that, I'm going to be a this or this or this when you're that young. Focus instead on, I want to learn this, I want to learn that. It's what you want to learn and what you want to absorb at this point. Don't get caught up in, what role it's going to be, because honestly, 5-10 years of their careers, most of those jobs will not exist, will not be the same thing. And so I'd say focus on learning and absorbing as much as you can and taking on skills and capabilities, and then be open to evolve into what the marketplace needs, and you'll be amazing. You'll be just fine if you give up this notion of locking in too early.
You know, if I could add something to that, I
Yeah.
think, and it complements everything you said, because I absolutely agree with you. I think there are two other things. One is to not let others define you. Kind of gets back to this whole notion of you're going to have coaches, you're going to have people in your life who are going to give you good advice. Don't let anybody limit what you can be and where you can go.
That's right.
Then my last piece of advice that I often give to people is sometimes as you grow, you're going to have to walk down your hall of haters to step through your door of destiny.
I love that.
Yes, sir.
Amen. So now let's talk about, I guess, the role of ELC in our lives. And, I came into ELC as an essay winner in, I think, I don't want to say it year out loud, 1999.
1999.
And I, fell in love with what the organization does and mission. And I was real lucky in that I happened to be in DC. And this amazing lady who was with, I believe she was with BP Amico at the time, Paula Banks, decided that the SA winners should get together and form an organization so we can begin to mentor and support each other, and then make it easier for ELC to work with us as a group. And so we formed then what was called Next Gen Network. It's now called Caliber. And so ran around DC incorporating and getting to know this group of folks who I actually know today still. I'm proud to say a whole bunch of us from that class of folks are now ELC members.
Well, it's about creating community, right?
Yeah.
And, I've been a member now 5 years. But actually, my introduction to ELC took place several years back when I was part of General Electric. Okay. And there was a gentleman by the name of Dimitri Stockton, who was a long-standing member.
Yes.
And he was telling me about the organization. And I would hear about the organization from various leaders and the fact that I needed to, look at it, possibly lean into it. And as I started to learn more and more about it, and as I started really leaning into my own purpose as a leader, it aligned with my values. When I think about the purpose of ELC, it's not only about bringing talent on board and helping leading talent that can lead in the future, but it's also about creating community, creating purpose, creating a safe space to learn, to grow, to develop. And for me, it was eye-opening. In fact, I've now reached the point where I've made it my mission to start bringing members of my team to attend these types of sessions, whether it's winter meeting or summer meeting or MLMS or the gala, just exposing the talent across the company to these experiences, because I think it just changes your perspective as a leader. And so for me, it's been a game changer in my life. And hopefully I will now have the opportunity to introduce it to others so that it can change the game for them.
What I love about ELC is this culture of amazing people having achieved amazing things, but the humility in the room of, we're brothers and sisters looking out for each other, having great conversation, learning, and talking about and challenging ourselves and each other on our contribution and what we're doing to give back and contribute in many ways back to where we started this conversation, pouring as much into others as so many poured into us.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that stands out to me is just the power of authenticity.
Yeah.
I had an experience recently where I had 2 members of my leadership team. They're senior executives in my company. I brought them to a meeting, and I asked them after they attended the meeting, what did they think? And they said they were blown away by how humbled, how human the talented leaders of ELC were. You sometimes have this perception, you create this ceiling that you feel like you can't break through. There's a mindset that says, I'm not going to be smart enough, I'm not going to be sharp enough, I'm not going to be politically savvy enough to navigate through. And then you walk in and you look at all of these tremendous, talented leaders, and they're people.
Incredibly human.
Incredibly human.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what makes ELC special. It is not elitist. This is about us.
Yeah. Thank you, man. I love this. It's good.
Thank you.